In this WrestleTalk news, Bret Hart has re-signed with WWE and won't be appearing in AEW, my review of SmackDown, Tempest's review of Rampage, and more. Subscribe and enable notifications to always on for daily wrestling news videos.
Support WrestleTalk!
For weeks now, there have been teases in AEW of Bret Hart joining the promotion as the manager of FTR, after the duo had fired Tully Blanchard as their previous manager. However, these teases have abruptly come to a stop, while FTR have continued their meteoric rise as possibly the #1 babyface tag team in AEW right now. Hart is set to manage FTR at a big-time wrestling show in June, leading many to speculate that he would also be taking up this role in AEW as well. However, a new report from the Wrestling Observer has quashed these thoughts. According to the newsletter, the belief within AEW is that Hart has recently signed a lucrative WWE deal that will prevent him from appearing in AEW. The indie show appearance is a loophole to this contract, which is how it's still allowed. However, according to the report, we shouldn't be expecting Hart in AEW anytime soon. This is also noteworthy due to the Owen Hart tournaments taking place in the company right now as well, with the finals of each taking place at Double or Nothing in around a month's time. So we should also not expect Bret to be making an appearance as part of these tournaments too. Also in the newsletter was the note that Hart planned on slowing down public appearances and autograph signings most likely at the end of the year, with the occasional exception, which could also point towards a more lucrative WWE deal as well. However, this is all mostly anecdotal evidence, so maybe this is all a big work and Bret will be there on Wednesday for the Dax vs Cash match and we'll all rejoice and it'll be a great time. Boy, I cannot wait for that match, by the way. However, in more sad news, it seems there is another injury for a recently returned from injury AEW star, Darius Martin. According to Fightful Select, Martin picked up a leg injury and is back on the shelf once again. There is currently no reported time frame for his return, and he is expected to miss another lengthy period of time. Fans began to speculate about where this injury was picked up, with them honing in on a taping of AEW Dark and Dark Elevation, but Martin himself took to Twitter to quash the rumors. What I'm currently dealing with has nothing to do with wrestling, but I'm glad everyone else out there seems to know more about my health than I do. Best wishes to Darius, and I hope to see you back in the ring soon. The talk of the town this week was the announcement of the AEW New Japan crossover show Forbidden Door, which has sent fans in a spiral speculating what the match card could look like. In an update to that, the Wrestling Observer newsletter is reporting that the current plans for the show and matches isn't locked in stone. And while the general fan feeling is it will be AEW versus New Japan for the matches, it could feature some intra-promotion matches too. But the correct answer is Keith Lee versus Tomohiro Ishii. It's always Keith Lee versus Tomohiro Ishii. And now it's time for my review of SmackDown in about 5 minutes. Thank you for being awesome pledge hammers on Patreon, the Venerable Jesse Venable, and the Baker Adam Cakebread. You can get your own shoutout and loads of extra bonus content by visiting us at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. We've got just 2 more weeks of shows before WrestleMania Backlash, so I'm really looking forward to finding out what Roman Reigns is doing at the show because they still haven't told us yet. I'm sure it'll be on this show, for sure. But it's another title match that got the spotlight to start this show, as it was Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey's contract signing to start the show. After Charlotte said no to the match, and it was already made official on social media anyway, so why do they need to sign the contract? But anyway, Drew Gulak is back, this time as Adam Pearce's assistant, and he tries to bring back the PowerPoint presentation, but Charlotte shuts it down. Boo Charlotte, we all love Gulak and his presentations. It of course ends in a brawl, including kendo sticks, and then Ronda Rousey beat up Drew Gulak for some reason, and signed the contract while giving Gulak an armbar, which is a very cool visual, but also, aren't we supposed to like Gulak? After this was Xavier Woods versus Butch in a decent little match, but Woods won again with the backwoods, which is what he's calling a small package roll-up finisher now. And then Butch gets annoyed and walks off through the crowd, while Michael Cole calls him a petulant spoiled brat, which I'm sure is a surefire way to get him over. Call him a child. Ricochet and Aaliyah are backstage, and after Aaliyah asks him what's next for his title, Shanky gets himself a title shot next week. Cool. Walter then had a squash match against Teddy Goods, which was what it was. You know, I had a thought during this match that it's a massive shame that NXT call-ups and new stars debuting can't be treated as massive deals right away, especially when it's someone the caliber of Walter. Like they did exactly the right thing with Finn Balor in 2016, but then he got injured, and they've not really done it since. RK Bro and Drew McIntyre are backstage together, where Randy and Drew say they buried the hatchet and they're cool now. And then we had Riddle versus Jey Uso, building off last week, where Riddle defeated Jimmy Uso. Now there's obviously a couple ways this can go. You can have Jey defeat Riddle here, which would give the Usos a win. It would subtly tell the audience that Jey is actually better than Jimmy, or at the very least, he learned from Jimmy's mistakes last week if they wanted to tell the story of main event Jey Uso once again, because with a bit of building, they could legitimately tell that story again. Right now, it's just on pause. At one point, he was worthy of challenging Roman Reigns, and if they want to kickstart that story again, getting a win here would be a way to do it. On the other hand, Riddle could do with some wins, considering he's almost always the fall guy when RK Bro lose, and he's always the one who gets worked over in their tag matches. So if they want to build Riddle, they could have him win again here, though that would make the Usos look a bit rubbish with losing to Riddle 2 weeks in a row. So the Usos looked a bit rubbish as they lost to Riddle 2 weeks in a row, but the match itself was a bunch of fun, with both Jey and Riddle paying homage to their hero Randy Orton by using his moves. Riddle won in the end, which is good for him. I think I'm just salty that they had all the potential in the world with the Jey Uso story and they're not using it. Xia Li turned heel backstage by saying she used to protect people, but she doesn't see anyone worthy of her protection, now she just protects herself. Which is essentially her way of saying, WWE didn't know how to book me as a babyface, so I'm a heel now. Great stuff for Xia Li. Naomi and Sasha Banks cut a promo in the ring saying the reason they've got no competition in the women's tag division is because they're so good, which I'm sure has nothing to do with there being literally one other team other than them right now in the division. Which they then said because they were then listing all the tag teams that are broken up. Stop pointing out how bad your women's tag division is, WWE. They were of course interrupted by the only other team available right now, Natalya and Shayna Baszler, who said they're gonna win or whatever. Madcap Moss is still not funny. His gimmick is literally exactly the same as it was with Corbin, except now we're expected to laugh with him, which we don't because he's not funny. Moss beat Angel in a match, Corbin beat him down afterwards, and stole the Andrew the Giant Memorial Trophy. I don't care. Roman Reigns is backstage with the Usos. Finally, we're going to hear what Reigns is doing with his championship. He lambasts the Usos for losing, and then is visited by Sami Zayn, who asks Reigns for help against Drew McIntyre. And RK Bro are going to be out there as lumberjacks as well, so there's benefit to Reigns helping too. This was solid, and Reigns told the Usos to take his name out of the mouth of the people disrespecting him, which would be RK Bro and Drew McIntyre. Maybe this is leading to a Drew McIntyre-Reigns feud for Backlash? Looking forward to seeing what this lumberjack match sets up. Lacey Evans did a part 3 of her emotional backstory, which was just as good as the other 2 so far. She is great and is delivering these stories well. My one fear, which WWE aren't doing right now, but I can see the warning signs, is that they overplay it and start calling her the inspirational Lacey Evans as like her actual nickname, and then every segment she's in, they'll be talking about what an inspiration she is and that she's a former Marine, and that she's inspirational, and the struggle she's had to overcome, and that she's an inspiration, etc. Which she is, but knowing WWE, they'll run that into the ground until we don't want to hear it anymore. So fingers crossed they don't, because this is very good stuff. And then it was the main event of Drew McIntyre versus Sami Zayn in a lumberjack match. RK Bro was out as lumberjacks, the Usos music plays, and out they come to ringside as well. And hey, Shinsuke Nakamura's a lumberjack too, and he interacted with Roman Reigns a couple weeks ago, so there's a lot of plates spinning going into this match. Can't wait to see what happens with Reigns. Lots of options here. The match was a match, and as RK Bro went to throw Sami Zayn back into the ring, they get super kicked by the Usos, who walk away. But you're also supposed to beat up Drew McIntyre. Isn't that what Reigns told you to do? This causes a big brawl with the rest of the lumberjacks, Sami runs away, and next week it's a steel cage match with Sami and Drew. Drew hit Jinder Mahal with a Claymore, and that was that. No Reigns, no furthering of that story, no idea what's happening with his titles still, no challengers lined up, Shinsuke was irrelevant in this segment, no teasing of Drew going for the title, the Usos only interacted with RK Bro, who they've already been telling a story with. There was a whole lot of nothing in this main event. So that was the show. Let me know what you thought in the comments, because I thought this show was a bit pants. The Riddle Jey match was very fun, Lacey continues to be good, everything else was fine, a bit throwaway, boring, unimportant, not noteworthy at all. This show gets a 2 out of 5. Seriously, what is Reigns doing with his title? And now over to Tempest for his review of AEW Rampage.
All of this just all the time makes for a happy Tempest. What's going on, WrestleTalk friends and fans? Tempest is back with another review of AEW Rampage in about 3 minutes. So this show kicked off with the absolute dream match that was Adam Cole versus the Stone Pitbull, Tomohiro Ishii. stiff as a horse. This match was thoroughly enjoyable, even if it didn't quite reach the same heights as some of the other AEW New Japan crossover matches we've had so far. It was still a ton of fun. It's basically impossible to have anything less than a fun match with Tomohiro Ishii. He is just about the most fun wrestler on the planet. For what he doesn't have in neck, he makes up for in fun. But of course, this was also an Owen Hart Cup qualifier match, as Adam Cole picked up a big win, advancing to the tournament with a win over Ishii. And I've really enjoyed both the men's and women's qualifier matches. Qualifying matches just make everything that much more exciting. There's built-in stakes, wins and losses mattering. It's good stuff. This was a really fun match. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. And then we had a quick squash match as Lance Archer beat Serpentico. There's a joke that about 5 people will understand. There's not much to say about this match itself, but I've really enjoyed this trend of AEW giving their monsters a tune-up squash match before they go up against Wardlow on Dynamite. The match is a 2 out of 5, but the concept is excellent. And then we had Eddie Kingston taking on Daniel Garcia. Both factions were barred from ringside, and we got what I thought was an excellent match between these two. Eddie Kingston's style is so completely unique to him, and he matches so well with someone like Daniel Garcia, who's now showing a little bit more of a violent side, mixing that with his technical prowess. I also like seeing that we're building towards another Eddie Kingston-Chris Jericho match, as Eddie Kingston was able to pick up the win here with a spinning back fist, proving that he is once again higher than Daniel Garcia on the AEW totem pole. This is what I like about AEW booking too, because you can allow Daniel Garcia to get a few pins over Eddie Kingston in 6-man tags, but when it's just a straight up one-on-one singles match, Eddie Kingston should be the better man at this stage. It's just good, simple booking that keeps as many people strong for as long as possible, and I like that philosophy. I like it very much. This match was also excellent. It gets a 4 out of 5. And then we had our main event for the TBS Championship as Jade Cargill put her undefeated streak on the line against Marina Shafir. Marina Shafir never came across as someone with a ton of potential in NXT, but after just a few weeks in AEW, she's already being presented as a credible challenger. I don't know how many people believed that she was going to beat Jade Cargill here, but at least they presented her as such a challenger. But you could see that there really is a star there with Marina Shafir, and if she waits around long enough, she could get a reign as a TBS champion, as she has that much potential. This wasn't her day though, as Jade Cargill hit perhaps the best jaded she's ever hit to capture the win and her 30th victory. Again, it's really not that hard to book a good winning streak. Who's going to be the one to beat Jade Cargill? I have no idea, but let us know in the comments below. I'm actually curious to hear what you have to think. But overall, I thought this was a very strong main event, and I like that they've promoted Jade Cargill's last few opponents. It makes all of these matches feel that much bigger. And at the end of the day, this was another Rampage that you will not regret going out of your way to see. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5. This was another very fun show, filled with really fun matches. I feel like that's most Rampages at this point, but that's also not a bad thing whatsoever. And that just about wraps it up for me. If you want to hear more about this show and last night's SmackDown, make sure you go over to WrestleTalk podcast later on today, where myself and Chopper Pete will be breaking down both shows in complete detail. Until then, LAW is fine. Go buy a shirt or something. One of these shirts, actually. WrestleShop.com. LAW for life. Yeah. With the Elite drawing the largest crowds in the promotion's history, putting on fantastic matches, and selling merch at an unprecedented pace, the two sides seemed destined to shake up the wrestling business together, but what seemed like a perfect marriage turned into a very bitter divorce, with a new, better, hotter suitor emerging to succeed where ROH would fail. It's time to close the book on the Honorable Ring.